Well, I'm going to be videoing, so I'll just follow.
I'm going to show you where I'm going to come from. Grab a book. And so, where you have yours here. Yeah, okay. I think, because we'll just be right here, right? Okay. Yeah. This is page, I'm going to start on page 225, and I'm going to kind of skip about. But, so by the way, I'm Bernard.
Yes.
My name is Bernard, and I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to be here and be a part of the rejuvenation of the Bronx area. I actually live in the Bronx now by Yankee Stadium. When I first moved to New York about 12 years ago, I lived in Brooklyn and I lived in Harlem, but I was telling my cousin, I really do like the Bronx better. You know, you get a little of everything, Black, Puerto Rican, right? You know, so I just really like that smorgasbord stuff. But anyway, this is my first novel. It's called Til Midnight, a novel. And the genesis of it actually came from my current work is as a professor at FIT, and I was on this committee called the Diversity Committee. And that kind of sparked the idea of the novel, because when we met as a group, we had these heated conversations sometimes about what is diversity, what is not diversity, where do you start when you start trying to tackle diversity on a college campus, you know, so, and a lot of our bringing heads together ended up being head buttons, where people were very, very staunch about what they thought diversity was and what it wasn't. So that's the general idea of this book. Is it gets at the elevator pitch is how do we who are different, who are staunchly different from each other, interact and coexist with people who are different than we are. So that's the bottom line, right? And they twist and turns. There's a lot of strong language. There's a lot of sex. So I always tell people when I recommend the novel is for mature readers, generally over the age of 18, right? So that's kind of the idea. I'm going to read on page 225, and to set up the setting for this particular part, it's a meeting going on that's not too dissimilar from the meeting I sat in on the diversity committee. So it's not the exact same thing. I sort of add a little Hollywood to the discussions here to sort of keep it interesting. But there's a meeting going on. The name of the chapter is called Room 513. That's where the meeting is taking place. And it is, in fact, a diversity meeting. And we're going to find out here. So we have a guest speaker whose name is Becca. And I would imagine if she knew what she was in for at this meeting, she probably wouldn't have accepted the invitation. Because, as you're going to see, the discussion is going to get very heated. And thank goodness, so there's people from all different departments, cross-sections of the university there. And thank goodness, however, Dr. Lay is not present. Because she has a history of stirring the pot, and she's very, very opinionated, right? So thankfully she's not there, and they're able to have the meeting, and they're almost at the end. So I'm at the middle of page 225, a little bit above the meeting where it says, all right. And this is Becca's talking. And I may skip about, but I'll try to let you know. So Becca's the guest speaker, and they're involved in an exercise called Standing Up for What's Right. And the gist of the assignment is Becca reads a statement, and if you agree with it, you don't disagree with it, but you literally have to stand up. Standing up for what's right. So therein, we're going to see the conflict. Okay, so she says, all right, here's the third one. Becca proceeded, and here's her third statement. All students should be encouraged to support gay rights and its political agenda. Yes, that's great, voiced Marjorie, as she hurried and stood. Her standing wasn't enough, however. Indeed, we've got to teach this next generation how to be tolerant and point them toward being a more enlightened generation than we were. Mostly all agreed and stood except for the obviousness. Nico had stopped cleaning and tidying as he had become engrossed in these questions and responses. He sipped some coffee as things seemed to be getting heated. As Garnett sat and grinned, she prepared her mouth to rebut, but was forestalled by another, sharper, louder voice. That's absolutely ridiculous. There is no way you all can sit here well stand here and think that statement makes any sense? It was a voice that belonged to none other than Lay. A student who needed to meet with her about a missed exam had detained her in her office. She had quietly entered the meeting room and had gone by the lunch area to choose from what remained. She held her plate of a half a tuna sandwich and some fruit and made her way over to an empty chair by the wall. Nobody would have to guess what her vote was on the matter, and she sat down deliberately while she had the floor and everybody's attention. Directing her attention to Becca, she dug in. I know that this is a diversity committee, but I have a serious concern about saying all students should have to do anything. Our role is not to make anybody feel the same way about anything. She continued. I remember I had a student last semester who shared with me that she was a Christian and didn't feel like being gay was right. There was no such student, but nobody could prove Lay wrong. She could safely hide behind this imaginary student to channel her own views. She told me she always felt like her feelings and perspectives were pushed to the side just because she lived according to a very conservative Christian worldview. She has a right to feel the way she does without having any of us to try to change their belief core. She has a right to agree to disagree. Well, I'm a Christian too, said Peggy from the registrar's office. She was standing and turned toward Lay. I can recommend to the student a nice reference book about how to be a Christian and embrace those in that community. Lay barked back, no! I'm not giving my student any reference book to try to persuade her to start believing what she believes. I thought that's what diversity is supposed to be, to appreciate all perspectives, not just one. Okay, we'll keep skipping down, go to the next page, 227. I can sort of see what Lay is saying, added Sato at the top, who was a rep from Faculty Services. You know, some of these students have been raised with deep religious convictions, so it doesn't really seem fair to force them to have to support a cause or agenda that goes directly against what they believe. Well, a lot of times they don't support that community because of fear, Marjorie countered. Fear? Of what? Why does it have to be about fear? Responded Lay indignantly. Just because I don't agree with an idea or a cause doesn't mean I'm afraid of it. That's a very narrow-minded statement, Marjorie. Out of all the faculty, she was the only one who called Marjorie by her real name, probably out of spite, and she failed to catch herself in time. She meant to reference the student. I honestly believe that most people who can't understand the plight and struggle of the community are just trapped in fear. I'm sorry. It's similar to how whites didn't respect the rights of the black community in the Jim Crow South in the early, oh Lord, I knew it would be just a matter of time before somebody would go there and bring that up. That's what's called a fallacy of false equivalence. Marjorie, please don't allow me to go in why those two scenarios are not and will never be the same. The gay struggle is not the same thing as the black struggle. Oh, I get so sick of people trying to equate the struggle with that. It's not the same. Well, enlighten us, Lay, since you feel so strongly about it, said Marjorie. She pounded the table with her fist, more out of frustration than antagonism. The pounding was somewhat awkward since she did it from a standing position. Next page. First, you can choose to hide your orientation if you wish. She outed Marjorie on the spot, but it really wasn't an outing. Everybody knew. But I can't hide my brown skin if I wanted to. Well, that still doesn't mean that both groups can't be discriminated against. I didn't choose to be this way. It's genetic. It's part of my biological code. Okay, let's script down, go down. Next page, 229. In the middle. Oh my God, are you serious, Lay? Do you even hear yourself right now? I guess you haven't heard what happened during the Stonewall riots of the 60s. Or I guess the name Matthew Shepard doesn't ring a bell for you, huh? Yes, we all know how the few mild indignities in your community are to be equated with the systematic exploitation and institutional degradation that blacks had to endure. They are not equivalent struggles, Marjorie. Lay smirked and chomped on a juicy piece of pineapple. Oh, she could be so sardonic. And it was getting under Marjorie's skin. Although, skip down, we're going to finish up. Last page, 230. At the top. Just turn on the TV and open your eyes, Marjorie clapped back. You'll see the discrimination and violence we have to endure. We're still struggling to get health benefits, and the like in the event our spouses die. We have no protection. Marjorie, I see plenty of stuff on the TV and social media, like how you're able to swim comfortably in the pool in your own neighborhood, like how you can study and sleep unmolested in the lounge of a university where you're duly enrolled, like how you can peacefully barbecue outside, Like how you can sit in Starbucks for hours and not get kicked out, even if you don't order anything. Like how you can rent your house on Airbnb and not be bothered. Sarcasm was lazy on the name. Well, either way, it's a civil rights battle, one and the same. You can't be mad about injustice for one thing and not be just as outraged at injustice for another. Right is right. Last paragraph. So then talk about all injustices equally. Let's have discussions about all injustices, not the same thing all the time. I just hate when you all play the victim as if you're making no progress, when we're over here suffering to no end. And then you try to bully everybody to make them do what you want. That's why I'm glad the Supreme Court ruled the way it did and supported that man who refused to make that cake for that couple. Enough bullying is enough. Bake your own cake. So you see the head buttings, and this is just mild. I mean, it gets more heated in different areas, but this is just a sense of how we kind of see ourselves in light of people who are different than us. And as you see, there are people who are just hold on tight to what they kind of believe. And I thought it was good to at least highlight it, whether you agree with people's perspectives or not. Hopefully we can learn how to agree, disagree. You know, so that's the essence of it. Oh, but it does have some supernatural elements in it, and my mind just really thinks crazy. So if you see the supernatural and the invisible world kind of shaping in, my cousin was talking about it. She was like, "Oh, that threw me off guard." But it's very intense, very intense. And the ending, I will tell you this: it says delivers a sudden conclusion that will leave you pondering long after you've turned the last page. One of my friends texted me yesterday. She said, "Bernard, when I read the end, I literally had chills on my body." I was like, "Oh, you just saying that?" You know, so my mind just really thinks weird. So hopefully it'll sort of, pan out when you read it.
So is Lemonade? So is Til Midnight the sequel?
No. So this is actually my first novel.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So this is it's fiction. This is more of a memoir, and what do you make when life gives you lemons? So you see this is a tunnel of lemons that sort of comes out in the bright light on the other side. So this one is more of a memoir, and it talks about me growing up in North Carolina and ends with me being here in New York. And it just deals with a lot of the struggles I had to sort of deal with. Our family owned a restaurant in North Carolina, and they were kind of prominent in the area. And so it deals with what happens kind of like when your family is prominent, but you still have struggles you're sort of dealing with, and you don't want to, a lot of times in the black community, what's under the rug, you keep it under the rug. And so I'm just real candid about a lot of stuff I went through, auditing on drugs and a lot of stuff. And I didn't pull myself up on my bootstraps, but I had a lot of support in the community. At one point in high school, I had to live with a teacher, right, my senior year. So I kind of talk about that and how the family didn't want me to really talk about it in this book. So I changed names, but I figured the only way to sort of help somebody going through what maybe not the same thing I went through, but just try to be transparent and say, well, I didn't end up being a professor overnight. I had struggles, I had to kind of sort of deal with stuff. So this is more nonfiction. But I don't know if I write anything else, but at least I have this.
You will. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Will you consider doing it on campus for your reading?
You think campus is ready for it?
Campus Barnes and Noble. And I think it would be.
You think so?
And orientation actually starts tomorrow.
Oh, well, yeah, I know.
But for this upcoming week and the week after, it's all orientation.
Yeah.
And I think on a dime, this thing will accommodate.
You think so?
Yes.
And see, I wonder if there's a conflict of interest when you have like money-making stuff, like book signings. And in other words, I don't want to get caught up in the politics of, if he's making money off of this, blah blah blah. But I don't mind doing reading.
But the bookstore carries books by faculty.
Oh.
Yeah, the nature of that fact too. There are quite a number of books that are written by faculty that the bookstore carries.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Well, yeah. I mean, maybe we can put our heads together and kind of figure out. Yeah. Because I just did, again with different places talking about diversity. And what this is diversity in a nutshell. As a matter of fact, in the foreword, in terms of dedication, the dedication says to those weak in the faith and for civility. So the whole book, the whole notion is civility. Just treating people like they matter and that they matter. you know, we can disagree about stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to take a chair and go upside your head, you know, which just happened in Chelsea, you know, the barbecue place down there. So, but I don't know. We can definitely look into it. Yeah, we can look into it. So.
We can do it in time for civility.
Oh yeah.
Evidence is part of the whole.
So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. And as you say, I try to weave in a lot of humor and, you know, sarcasm.
I love it.
Thank you.
Who's here?
Oh my God! You made it! And look. Look, no, because I told her I was like, hey, look here, so she, I thought she was the one in Chelsea. And
Should I?
oh yeah, you could have stopped